it seems like it's not spoken often enough in the West about how mothers raise like Hafadh. I understand that at least one of your children has completed her memorization of the Quran, mashallah.
MashaAllah,
May Allah, inshallah, make her and yourself from the people of the Quran.
Ameen.
Ameen. And I want to ask you a little bit about that journey. When did you decide, was there a goal? Did you decide that you want your children to be Hafadh, or did you kind of fall into it?
Yeah, I always wanted my children to have a close relationship with the Quran, and I remember when I was pregnant with my eldest, who is the one, mashallah, who has completed her hib, that I made dua. I made dua for her, and I made dua that she would live her life by the Quran, that she would be a guardian of the Quran, and. So yeah, it was a choice. It was definitely a choice that I made. And when she was, when she was sleeping, when she was a baby, I would put her to sleep with the Quran on. She could only sleep if the Quran was playing.
Yeah.
Subhanallah. So the Quran kind of was, it soothed her. So that was kind of like the beginning of her journey. And then around like maybe 2 years old, we started to kind of teach her the quls and the importance of saying her dua when she used to go to the bathroom, and she'd leave the house, and mashallah, she was a sponge, bless her. And then we noticed that mashallah she picked up verses very, very quickly, alhamdulillah. And so that progressed, and then by the time she was, I think, 3, she had completed Juzamma, mashallah. And then that was it. It was like, okay, we need to take this seriously. And I made a conscious decision to, to help her. And so the kind of like stickers and reward charts and progression charts, would be up on the wall. Every time she memorized a surah, she was given a gift. We would talk about, that one day she's going to be able to crown her parents, and so this is the way that we kind of raised her, alhamdulillah. And then when she was about 5, that's when we kind of really, I think she had memorized like 3 juz by then,
mashallah,
I think, mashallah. She was, mashallah. She was very young, alhamdulillah. And then that was it. We took it seriously, and it was like moving from a certain amount to half a page to a page, and then, and then the muraja'a.
Yeah.
So she was home educated, alhamdulillah. And I think that helped in that, we could really prioritize the Quran in her home education journey. And then it was an interesting journey, because she wanted this. She got to a point, even though she was young, where she wanted this for herself. But obviously, as you know, it can sometimes be difficult, especially with to be consistent, and you as a child, you just kind of want to play. So the rewards aspect and the kind of speaking to her and encouraging her in that way was really, really important. And I write about this in I think Ramadan Reflections, where she was really little and she was memorizing Surah Rahman, and with the repeated verse, she found it difficult, and it was a surah that she found difficult, and there were elements, I think, of Surah Najm as well that she found difficult as well. So I remember her crying and she was besides herself, and she just said to me, I can't do it. And she was little, and I looked at her and I bent down to her level and I put my hands on her shoulders and I said to her, I never ever want to hear you say I can't ever again. And I said, and she was, sniffling and sobbing. And I said to her, you know why? You can never say I can't, because Allah can make anything possible for you. You can. with Allah's help. Anything is possible for you. And she was staring at me, you know, with her big eyes, and she was like, you know, okay on me. And I said to her, never, ever say you can't, because you can with Allah's help. Anything that feels impossible can become possible. And, you know, she's short of turning 20 in a few months, subhanAllah, mashallah. And she, you know, to this day, she's like, she says to me, I can't even think the words I can't, because that was it. From that moment onwards, I knew that I could. I knew that Allah can do anything, can support me in any way, as long as I want it. I work hard for it and I ask him to help me. Anything is possible. So even now, she can't even conceive the idea of not being able to. And there was actually a conference that took place a few months ago. I think it was called Mothers of the Hufadh or something. Yeah. And she spoke there. She said that was a turning point for her.
Yeah.
She said that was a huge turning point in my hifz journey, because after that it was like, mashallah, you know, obviously there were challenges, but it was a very, very different turning point, and the journey felt different. So you know, it became expensive. It became expensive, and she's actually with
the gift.
Yeah, it became, because mashallah, she was moving quite quickly, and it's like I had to keep on top of it, because especially as a child, that's your reward, isn't it? I was like, this is gonna dry me out, really. And then obviously it kind of moved to every juz now, the completion of every juz. And we were just speaking this morning, in fact, because she teaches hifz now, mashallah, to young children. And she has a 5-year-old student who has just completed juz amma, and her sister is like on her 3rd juz or something, and you know, she got them a gift. And she said, they're moving too quickly.
You're like, oh, now you know.
Alhamdulillah. So and then mashallah, alhamdulillah, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's grace, she completed it at the age of 12, alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah, that's such a blessing.
Alhamdulillah. And then obviously, it doesn't end there, does it? And that, you know, I remember hearing someone of knowledge say, anyone can memorize the Quran. Anyone can start the journey of hifz by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission. But those who retain it are few. And the muraja'a, obviously, it, you know, is a journey in and of itself, and it requires dedication and hard work, and I see that in her. What I have seen in my daughter, alhamdulillah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless her, ameen, and increase her, ameen, is that there's something very special about those who have memorized the Book of Allah. I feel like there is, they have a different way of being. And this is because of the Baraka of the Quran, right? But I've noticed this in friends. I've noticed this in her father, who is also a Hafidh, mashallah. Noticed this in her. And, you know, it's something that I wish for myself.
It's never too late.
And of course, it's absolutely never too late. And I believe that everything is possible with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there is something, you know, and I think I mentioned this in my 2nd book. I mentioned a quote by a speaker who said, anything that the Quran touches, there is something very special, you know. The Quran that came upon the Prophet ﷺ, and he became the best of the prophets, you know. And you know, the Quran, I can't remember the quote exactly.
The quote is, it's very common. So it was talking about how it was revealed upon Jibreel.
That's the best of angels.
And then the Prophet our ummah became the best of ummah.
Right,
and then even the time, subhanallah, it was revealed when in Ramadan. It made Ramadan the best of
the best of months. Thank you.
Qadr, the night that it was revealed on, it became the best of nights. And subhanallah, that's often used by shuyukh to say, how are you not going to let it in your everyday? Do you not want your everyday to be full of barakah?
Subhanallah.
Start your day with Quran.
Absolutely. And I think what this has done, and my daughter says this, and I've heard this from other Hufadh as well, is that even in her academic studies, though she had less time for her academic studies because of her hifz and then her muraja'a, but she found the barakah.
SubhanAllah.
And I've seen this in lots of different, like I said, even in friends, just seeing the barakah in their life. And it's something incredible, and something that I pray that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me life and health and so on, that maybe one day I can be that old woman who has memorized the Quran.
No, inshallah, honestly. And I think, alhamdulillah, you've raised a child on that.
Alhamdulillah.
So, bi'idhnillah, Allah will facilitate that for you. That itself is barakah in your household, right?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. And my children, are memorizing, alhamdulillah. And it's something that we know is important, and something that we are committed to. And the Quran, the journey of hifd, I realize it's never about the destination, although so many people make it such. It's the journey. It's the journey of receiving the shifa that comes from the healing that comes from the Quran. It's the journey of doing your best to do one of the most beloved deeds to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala consistently, regularly, the honor, the privilege of being able to do so. It's having the Quran played and recited within your home on a consistent basis, and the protection that provides. There's so much benefit on the journey, and we don't need to focus so much on the destination. And I think, I've seen, unfortunately, so many huffaz who ended up, alhamdulillah, completing their hifd, but have a negative connotation with the words of Allah, and that is an absolute tragedy, because some of them were beaten by their Quran teachers. Some of them were pushed towards this journey in such a negative manner that they've ended up memorizing the book, but then they no longer engage in muraja, or they don't feel inclined to open the mushaf. So for me, it's I don't know, I don't think I've achieved this at all, but my hope and my dream is that my children, when they become adults, due to their love of the Quran and their connection with the Quran, that they refer back to it and they live with it, and it's their reference point for their challenges and decisions in their life. You want to cultivate a love, an attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's words. And there was something that actually happened that I shared on Instagram a few months ago, subhanallah. And I want to mention it here, and I hope you don't mind me mentioning it, because it inspired me. And it was actually my youngest child, my daughter, bless her. And she was reciting Surah Al-Kahf, and it was Friday. And she was on my bed, and she was reciting. And she paused her recitation, and she said, Ummi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he's an author, right? This is his book. She was 10. Yeah. And I said to her, he is the author of authors. He is the absolute best author. She said, but that means that I'm reciting his words. And it was like a light bulb moment. But hearing her say that, I just thought, this is true. We are reciting the actual words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes we open the Mus'haf and we're just like, right? We're just getting to the mode, and it's like a rhythm, and it's just something that we do. But actually just internalizing what I learned from her, that these are the unchanged words of the creator of the heavens and the earth, who created the depths and wonders of the oceans, and created the tiniest ant, who, he knows, Azza wa Jal, moves in a certain way, in a certain direction, knows where a leaf falls, how, on which side it will fall, where it will fall on the earth. These are his words. And I think sometimes we just need to slow down enough to kind of draw these conclusions. And then next time you then open the Mus'haf and you recite, you just think to yourself, wow, what an honor. What an absolute honor just to be able to recite. Imagine then to memorize his words and to protect them. Allahu Akbar.